One of the biggest things we're seeing at the moment is the regulation trending towards digital assets in the digital asset space. I think the work we're seeing with MiCA that's been passed already in the EU and the consultation papers that HMT have released and the feedback they've received therefrom in the UK show that the digital asset space is probably one of the biggest areas we can see at the moment for constant change and upheaval when it comes to surveillance. I think the requirements to become authorised, the requirements to have surveillance practices in place will definitely impact the surveillance landscape that we see. I think on top of that, we also can see that in the UK, we're seeing consultation papers and potential work around MAR. So MAR, there was some rumblings in the recent past that the UK government might repeal it and replace it. Whether or not that's to replace surveillance trends and surveillance lexicons, or whether or not that's to look at the enforcement regime, only time will tell. But I think there is a definite trend that surveillance is one of those areas that is being looked at, yes. We're seeing a trend towards regulation via enforcement. I think that's the case with the SEC quite generally and Genza. I think that's been something that both the industry and the SEC are very much aware of. In the UK and the EU, we tend to see more of a trend towards regulation via regulation and the creation of various pieces of regulation that will allow the governments to, and the bodies that work with the governments like the FCA, deal with any malfeasance that occurs. I think in the US we are seeing, again, trending back towards digital assets a little bit, that without legislation that dictates who can do what, the SEC is seizing the initiative, which has some positive elements to it as well. It will allow for some certainty once cases are passed, but having to go through that process can be daunting for industries and can be tough for people working in them as well. I think certainty is generally fundamentally a positive thing. I think where firms know what they need to do, know a timeline in which they need to do it, there can be investment because firms know what they need to do and what hurdles they need to overcome. I think where you don't have certainty, firms might not be as willing to invest. Some might go, well, it might happen 5 years in the future, we can run our business for 5 years. I think bigger players like certainty. I think there might be a consolidation of VASPs over time. I think those that can't afford to do surveillance, AML, understand their risk, probably can't afford to be in business. I've always said that if a firm can't afford to do compliance, probably can't afford to exist. I think compliance is a key element in any culture for any firm. So I would say MiCA is a positive thing. I think the trend towards having certainty in terms of what firms need to do with both authorization, AML, protecting retail, and trade surveillance is a big thing. I would like to think this was one of our best ones because I wrote the last one, so it was certainly a bit of fun to do. I would say that what we need to be aware of is that firms need to demonstrate a couple of things. The first thing is understanding your risk. The FCA doesn't always fine you for missing things, but it will always fine you for not understanding your business and understanding the risks that are entailed within how you trade, what you trade, and why you trade it. I think the fines for firms that I won't name in the past 24 months have really demonstrated that. The second thing I would say is that it's important, as well as understanding your risk, is to get to your risk quicker. And this comes into the second part, which is the FCA may fine you. I know I said they won't always do it, but they may fine you for missing things, not getting to things. And by understanding your risk, creating risk assessments that show what you need to do and why you need to do it, and by demonstrating that you have a plan and a process for getting to that risk in a quick and efficient manner, not quickly as in we close out 1,000 alerts every day and we don't look at them, but saying we've got 1,000 alerts, we're going to trim them, look at the good false positives, but keep a track record of those other ones, and we're going to have our analysts focus in on 100 that are really meaty and add value to the surveillance process via machine learning, robotic process automation, however you choose to do it, triaging. It's important that you both understand your risk and get to that risk as quickly and efficiently as possible. It is about demonstrating you understand your business. So some of the fines that have come out recently in the Market Watch that was released last talked about CFDs and some of the fines that have been issued. Last year there was a fine for a CFD trading firm as well that didn't do a risk assessment, didn't understand their risk. It was a six-figure fine. It was fairly meaty. And I think that shows that Firms need to demonstrate that they can get to their risk as quickly as possible and understand and articulate what that risk is. There's no point trading CFDs if you don't go, we have a risk relating to the actual product we're trading. We also have a risk relating to the underlying instrument that the CFD might relate to. Understanding your business, understanding your risk positions, both as a firm and for your clients, and also getting to that risk in terms of having a trade surveillance solution that's understandable, justifiable, and works is one of the vital things, I would say. The focus by regulators on cross-product with the fines for CFD firms, for a CFD firm, and the release of Market Watch 73 that also heavily reference CFDs. You can see that products that relate to different underlying assets need to be monitored and need to be looked after. As surveillance generally becomes more all-encompassing, very rarely do the regulators step back and go, you know what, this year we're going to look at less. Invariably they say this year we're going to come and we're going to look at more. I think given that we have most vanilla products already covered, we will be seeing a trend towards looking at not necessarily massively exotic options and derivatives, but even some more vanilla ones that need to have things looked at, not just in terms of the assets themselves, but the underlying. There was a narrowing the spread raised as an issue by the FCA as well in the last Market Watch. I think that really shows that while the FCA focus on cross-product, vendors that want to stay ahead of the game and service their clients effectively need to either be doing cross-product or have a roadmap that clients can engage with that enables them to go, we will be doing cross-product for these assets, for these products, this is our plan, this is our process. Does it meet your needs? And where it does meet their needs, that's great. Where it doesn't meet their needs, if you have a roadmap for it, you can get involved, you can help guide it, and you can decide, is this the product that helps us get us to where we need to be to understand our risk and protect ourselves?